Hi, welcome to Tsai CITY Funding. I'm going to go over everything around the 3 different funds here at Tsai CITY. If you don't know me, I'm Matt Garda. I am the Director of Student Programming here at Tsai CITY. I oversee what we call our venture development programs and oversee funding as part of that. So let's jump into the Tsai CITY website first, and then we can jump into the actual application so you understand. So you can see I'm here at city.yale.edu, and I'm going to click over to here on the right, and you'll see it pop up, and it'll say funding. Now, you'll see Startup Yale prizes. We're not going to talk about that in this video, but we are going to talk about the Student Ecosystem Fund, Student Exploration, and Student Milestone Fund. Let's start with the Student Exploration Fund. This is a fund that is up to $500 per application. Now, to note, for all the funding here at Tsai CITY, it's all grant funding. There's no strings attached. There's no actual investment documents, nothing of that. We don't own equity in any of your companies. So here's what we're looking for in the Student Exploration Fund. And there's the criteria, all that kind of stuff. The way I like to think of a Student Exploration Fund is that it's a testing fund. So let's say you're just getting started. Let's say you have an idea for a project, an initiative, a venture, and you're like, I just want to test if something's there, right? You should have done maybe a little bit of research if there's a need for it, all that kind of stuff. But now you're like, ooh, let's actually test something. Now, what the test can actually look like can look a million different ways, most likely. Now, it doesn't matter if you have it perfected or anything like that. You can use our Tsai CITY office hours to help kind of craft some of that. But what's a test that you can spend $500 on to prove if your idea is solving a real world problem of some sort? Now, that test, right, it could be, hey, I'm going to get marketing supplies to go market to 50 people and see if people even raise their hand of like, hey, I need this. It might be, I need stuff for prototyping. Whatever it might be, that's what we can use funding for. Have you run a test of whether or not you are solving a real world problem. Now, let's say you have the test run and you have it goes well. It doesn't mean that it's a bad idea necessarily, right? You can always come back to the Student Exploration Fund, reapply again, and say like, hey, here's what we learned in this experiment, but we want to run a different one to see if maybe this is the way we want to approach it. Now, a few different things that go along with the Exploration Fund, the Milestone Fund, and the Ecosystem Fund. You can see like here's some tests, like some ideas. But one thing that's really, really crucial for all this is that we can't pay people with these funds. So you can't pay for someone to maybe build your website. You can't pay someone to build your app. You can't pay for a speaker to come in. That's a no-go. And it can't be gift cards or things like that too. It can't be just these workarounds. If it looks like a workaround, we can't do that either. Let's move on to the Milestone Fund. So I'm gonna hit back and go to the Milestone Fund. Now, similar, this is a grant fund, and this is up to $2,000 of funding. Now, this is for ventures that are really like more advanced, not necessarily super duper advanced, but just advanced enough for like, hey, we've proven that we're solving a real world problem. But maybe you're like, hey, we need $2,000 worth of funding to buy materials, buy a software package, do something that really gets you over a hurdle that helps maybe open up a lot more checks or more revenue, whatever it might be. The goal is that this fund is helping you get over a significant hurdle. What it's not is it's not just funding your growth. If you are able to grow without this funding, you're not going to be a good fit for this particular fund. So you can see here's examples, here's what we're looking for in that criteria. But again, we are looking for a really concrete milestone or a goal that you are trying to achieve, and that this funding will help you get over a particular hurdle to achieve that goal. Student Ecosystem Fund is a little bit different than the Exploration and Milestone Fund because it's mainly around building the Yale entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem. So maybe let's say there's a topic maybe we're not covering. Maybe it's blockchain, Web3, AI, whatever topic you want to choose. Maybe we're not covering that across not only here at Tsai CITY, but across the Yale innovation and ecosystem and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Maybe we're just not covering it. Well, you can run an event, you can run maybe some programming that looks different. And we want to help support those efforts. So this is up to $500 worth of funding. It can go to a student club. It can go to yourself as a student. Again, it's all grant funding too. And this can look a whole slew of ways, but if it's just building the ecosystem, we want to do that. So that's why the Ecosystem Fund exists.